Hi, my name is Martin Siegert. I am Professor of Geosciences at Imperial College London and co-director of the Grantham Institute for Climate Change. Welcome to my exp. The reason that we're interested in learning about the past is because our climate is changing, and it's quite interesting for us to understand the times in the past when it's been most similar to the climate that we're going to get. Now, for the last 170 years or so, the level of greenhouse gases in our atmosphere has been going up and up as a consequence of burning fossil fuels. People will know about that. It's climate change, anthropogenic warming. In 1850, the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere was about 280 parts per million. Just remember that number. And now it's over 415 parts per million. And you might ask, well, so what? I mean, there's a little bit of carbon dioxide. Does it make that much difference? Well, let's put that into context in terms of the geological past. It's fantastic, isn't it, if we had a time machine and we can go back in time and sample the air and the atmosphere in previous times to understand what the composition of the atmosphere was like, and then we can compare it to now. Well, actually, we do have that time machine, an actual time machine. It's called the Antarctic ice sheet. The thing about the Antarctic ice sheet is it's very thick, over 4,000 meters thick in some places. And the ice that's buried deep beneath the surface of Antarctica was once snow in the past, but it's been buried by subsequent snowfall. And the way it works in Antarctica is that after about 70 years of burial from surface snow, the air within the snow gets cut off from the atmosphere above. That's quite important because it's now a time capsule, and it's a little air bubble, and it goes down and down and down with further snowfall. And at the bottom of the Antarctic ice sheet, the age of that ice is somewhere around 800,000 to 1 million years old. And so essentially we have a time machine that can take us back and get a sample of the Earth's atmosphere between now and about 800,000 years ago, and pretty much every year in between. Now, 415 parts per million is where we are at the moment. We haven't seen that in the ice core record. We've got to go back into the geological record, the rocks, to understand the last time we had that level. And it gets more difficult because no longer a sample of air within the rocks. It's called a proxy record. We take a measurement of the isotopes in the rocks and can calculate what we believe the level of carbon dioxide is, which resulted in the rocks being the way that they are. It's less precise than being able to get a direct sample, but nonetheless, it still tells a relatively good story about what the level of CO2 was in past climates. And what it tells us is that the last time we had 415 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere was in the Pliocene, between 5 and about 2.5 million years ago. In the Pliocene, temperatures on this planet were somewhere around 3 or 4 degrees warmer than they are right now, and the level of the sea, the ocean, was 20 meters higher than it is. So we're really concerned about the Pliocene as being a destination, a place where this planet is heading to be 3 or 4 degrees warmer than the present day, and with sea level 20 meters higher, and that will be a real concern for the way that we inhabit this planet. But unfortunately, that's not the end of the matter. The level of CO2 is still going up. It's not stopping at 415 parts per million, it's going up. And if we don't reduce our emissions to zero in about 30 years' time, if we continue on the pathway that we're currently on, it's completely possible for the level of CO2 in the atmosphere to get somewhere near 1,000 parts per million. So the polar regions are the most pristine parts of our planet, untouched by human presence, and of course highly vulnerable to change. We know that the polar regions are changing. We can observe the changes actually over decades. There were people that go to the places, measure the ice, the glaciers, the state of the sea ice, which is a very thin layer of ice over the ocean, measure the air temperature, and all these things are starting to change. In the Arctic, the most obvious is the sea ice. The Arctic Ocean, which is surrounded by a continent, but it is quite a deep ocean, is covered by a very thin layer of ice, about a meter or so thick. And it grows in the winter when it gets very cold, and it shrinks in the summer. And we're really concerned about that. We've been charting the extent of the sea ice during the summertime, and over the last 30 to 40 years or so, that sea ice extent has been going down and down. And we can see it, we can measure it. People's careers have been witnessing the loss in sea ice. It's predictable, it's predicted, and we're starting to see it as well. We can see it in the glaciers too. Glaciers, their margins are starting to retreat due to melting. People go back after a decade or two and can't believe that the condition of the glaciers that they once saw has moved back so much, sometimes hundreds of meters, in a completely obvious way. In the Antarctic, we're starting to see that there are invasions of alien species of plants on the Antarctic Peninsula. We're starting to see that the floating ice shelves, the very thick slabs of ice that flow from the grounded ice on land and buffer that grounded ice from flowing too quickly into the ocean, those ice shelves are starting to experience more melting, much more than they were about 40 or so years ago.